All right, what's up, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Happy Thursday. You're now in the third day of the quarter. So welcome to Q4. Hopefully it's going well so far, even though we're only 3 days in. We'll get started here in just a moment. Wow, look at this. They actually cleaned the glass here. And this is set to open really, really soon. The Four Seasons Hotel, this has been closed for quite some time. So they finally took down all of the, like the blackout as they prepare to open. Pretty cool. All right, everyone, I guess we'll go ahead and do our nightly audio and visual check. So if you can hear us and if we are streaming in 1080p, just go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat. We'll get started here momentarily. We have a few things to cover tonight. As you know, lots and lots of things are happening. So I think it's going to be a fun stream, good conversation. And the weather's pretty good too. We're reporting live on the corner of East 57th Street, right here at the start of Billionaires Row on Park Avenue, looking at 432 Park. We'll get started in a moment. All right, I think we'll get started. So good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Today is the third day of the quarter, the third day of October. It is a Thursday, and it is about 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time as we walk northbound on Park Avenue. What we're going to be talking about tonight as it relates to the U.S. equity market is increased volatility going into Election Day. So I really want to preface the stream. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to talk about abroad, right? There's no shortage of geopolitical conflicts. There's no shortage of major changes in monetary policy from the second largest central bank in the world, which is the People's Bank of China. But I think it's so critical that we cover this and we talk about the U.S. equity market and historical movements and historical volatility as we inch closer to Election Day. I think it's only 32 days away, to be quite honest. So a little bit over a month, quite literally about a day over a month away from the next presidential election. There was an interesting tweet. I'm going to try to pull it up. I actually retweeted it today. I think it's so important. And I want to show it to all of you. If you want to pull it up yourself, if you go to the X platform and you type in our handle, Walks Wall Street, you'll see it. Now, the tweet was actually made by David Marlin. He's actually a proprietary trader, used to be a wealth manager, really good guy, really good follow on X. But essentially, this is the VIX seasonality going into the election. And historically speaking, the VIX really tends to get going and blows off from October 2nd and usually tends to peak about 4 or 5 days before Election Day. Now, that's super critical because one of the things that we've really been hammering and talking about, right? We try to avoid the political conversation, but the media has done an amazing job of stoking massive amounts of fear, and I believe it's at an all-time record high for both sides, right? I don't think political tensions have ever been higher before in the United States, and there's so much uncertainty, right? Because you have one side of the aisle that says, if President Trump is elected, there's going to be no more democracy, he's going to be a dictator on day one, blah, blah, blah. And then the other side is saying it's literally going to be the end of capitalism if, President Kamala Harris is elected, and there's going to be no more free markets. So there is 100% going to be short-term, event-driven, irrational decisions leading up into the election. And if you're a savvy investor and you're grounded and you're not, I should say, intoxicated by the propaganda on Fox News as well as CNN, I think there's going to be an opportunity, quite literally now, the time is now, if you look at the data, to potentially gain an edge on the market. So if you type !news in the chat, NEWS in the chat, I did just send out this week's issue of the Behind the Street newsletter, where we kind of went into this in a little bit more detail, talking specifically about a potential volatility event leading up into the election, which could potentially provide us with a really nice buying opportunity should we get that. So go ahead and check that out, but we'll go ahead and get started. But first, let's say hello to everyone in the chat as we approach the one and only Plaza Hotel. I see Lance, what's going on? JC, hello as always. Alan, thanks so much. Gary Carpenter, Reggie44. I see Doc7, what's going on? New England Crypto, Professor Dario, always a pleasure. I see Brad's Brain, Lena Sandoval, A Collector's Dream, what's going on? Hope everyone's doing well. GG NYC, and much, much more. Now, isn't there some breaking news that just came out about this dock strike? I think I saw a few comments in the chat. Has that honestly been resolved as of about 3 minutes ago? I'm trying to look it up on my other phone, but it's quite spotty. It's suspended. So DC322 says the strike has been suspended. That is really, really interesting. Now, not to get too conspiratorial, but this had a much, much faster ending than I would have expected. So I think that union member probably got a knock on his door. I'll just say that. Because, yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about negotiation and how I believe that union lead was doing the wrong thing. I mean, he was really negotiating with a gun to everyone's head, saying, quote unquote, to use his exact words, we will cripple you, right? Not a good look, particularly in an election year. So I think that guy probably got a very interesting phone call, and I think that's our answer. Pretty interesting stuff. But usually all these big strikes, like the railroad strikes, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of pandemonium. It's, the media's covering it. It gets down to the last minute before they need to get a new contract, and then they sign a deal. But this one I think was a little bit more pressing. Very interesting. Yeah, I know. New England Cryptos is at a 60% increase. We're looking at them switching to automation for sure. As we talked about, much of those jobs have already been automated away in places like China and Singapore. So Wow, Brad's has apparently negotiated a 62% increase over 6 years. Now how much in benefits, etc. Who knows? 62% makes no sense. I don't know. It does seem quite interesting though. Huh. Lance says, I have some merchandise stuck on a cargo ship waiting to dock in Florida. Brian says that union president makes $900,000 a year. Yeah, it's. I was looking at the pay scale. Somebody posted the actual pay scale of that particular union on the X platform or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And the dispersions are very interesting. You have some people making not a lot of money, if not nothing, and then you have, well, I guess it's like that in every industry, right? But it just seems like an interesting distribution if you actually look at the pay scale on X. But all union pay scales are public. Like all of the really good unions in New York City, like the operating engineer union, I think is one of the highest paid here, Local 14. You can look at the pay scale on their website. So if you go to Local 14 pay scale, they have to publish it. It's publicly available information because they negotiate a contract. So anyway, some of those union construction jobs in New York, in Boston, and some of these major cities, these guys make a lot of money, these guys and girls. If you're running a big rig, like heavy equipment operator, if you're running a crane or something, depending on how long that boom is, I mean, you're talking like $175 an hour, maybe $200 depending on the overtime. It's kind of wild. And then you get benefit matching too, which is crazy. I know NAV 407 says a lot of noise with all the strikes, but the world never ends. That's true. It's a lot of sensationalism. I wonder how much sensationalism there was with this one. I mean, the union boss was pretty vocal, and I mean, he definitely knows how to get attention for sure, but we'll see. Same thing with all of the, what do you call them? The budget contracts, like the budget negotiations. You go back and forth, it's the same news cycle. They say, the Republicans say the Democrats are holding American workers hostage. They're holding everyone's paychecks hostage. The Democrats say the same thing about the Republicans. And then it comes down to the last second, and then guess what? Well, we get a new, we agree on a new budget, a new spending plan, and we spend more money, the deficits grow, and the world keeps turning. So it's very cyclical, all of those. So Doc 7 says big data tomorrow, guys. What do we got tomorrow, Doc 7? I think we got the jobs numbers, right? The payroll numbers. Now, I was looking at the Whisper number, and I think it's going to beat by some crazy amount, like 150,000 jobs. It may beat. Now, today we got an interesting piece of economic news and a very, very positive piece of economic data, frankly put. Now, the first business day of the month was October 1st, and we got the Institute for Supply Management manufacturing PMIs. Today, we got the services PMI numbers, and they absolutely crushed. They came in at the highest reading over the last 12 months. We hit the high, and I think it came in 2 percentage points higher than August. So really positive stuff. If you want to kind of scour through that, you could type !PMI in the chat, and it'll drop the link to the manufacturing report. But if you just go back to the original website on the home page, you can look at the services number 2, which I think came in at 54.2% or maybe 54.4. I mean, a monster number. And obviously the reason why we look at those two data points is because there is very high correlation, extremely high correlation between the growth in the manufacturing sector and the service sector and GDP growth. And there's also high correlation between US GDP growth and S&P 500 returns. Hey, Patient Lobster, this is Tom. Greetings from Israel. Wow, what's going on over there? You guys okay? I have a few buddies who were supposed to fly out of Israel to New York. I was supposed to meet with them, but I guess the Israeli airspace is closed due to the Iran attack. So they're actually still stranded in Israel right now. Hopefully everybody is safe. It looks like the Iron Dome was working overtime. So hope you're well, hope you're safe. Gary says the PMI rose to 54.9% in September from 51.5 in August. It's a massive number. Now think about this, right? When I was reading through the report today, this is the way I was thinking about it. If you scroll down about a third of the way on that page, what you'll read is from what the respondents are saying. And the vast majority of what the respondents have been saying is there's uncertainty with the looming election, right? There's uncertainty going into the new presidential election. A lot of consumers are holding back. A lot of home builders actually said that, by the way. They said we're not getting a lot of deals done, number one, because interest rates are elevated, but number two, because there's a lot of uncertainty as it relates to the US election. So if we got a massive print, right, the highest print we've ever gotten in the service sector in the last 12 months, before the presidential election, literally a month before the election, could you imagine what the print is going to be this holiday season once everyone gets over themselves about the election? I mean, this could be massive numbers. Now, not only that, right, obviously the election is a massive catalyst, but what else was a massive catalyst? We pulled those huge service numbers with those elevated interest rates, with restrictive monetary policy. Now we've completely shifted that policy from restrictive to accommodative. So this could potentially be very, very good, very, very optimistic for the US economy. Yeah, Peter says the dock workers are postponing the strike until January 15th. Yeah, it's a little bit of breaking news too, which is good. Very cool. Luz says you just arrived in New York City today. Thanks for the dinner recommendations. Absolutely. Well, enjoy your time in New York. It's quite the opportune time to be here. It's not too hot, not too cold, and the humidity is all but gone. So I think you're going to have a really good time. Welcome to New York. Hopefully the city has made a good first impression on you. That's my hope. You know what, since we have the light, let's cross while we have it. We're crossing westbound on 6th Avenue. Michael G says bonds may be a safe spot to park a little money in the portfolio. Well, if you look at the CME watch tool, if you type !CME in the chat, by the end of Q1, right? March, I think, when is that FOMC meeting? March 24th of 2025? The market is assigning a pretty high probability that the Fed funds rate is going to be, 3.25% to 3.5%. That's crazy, right? So, maybe you're right. Maybe it is an opportune time to go long bonds here. Because remember, there's an inverse correlation. As rates go down, the price of those bonds go up and vice versa. So we'll see maybe a little TLT action. Maurice's dock workers accept a 62% pay raise. Now, how much do you want to bet that you're going to see articles over the next 6 months about, revolutionizing and investing significant amounts of money into full automation into our US ports? Now, yesterday I said, look, they're probably going to negotiate a contract that gives them the dock workers what they want on a salary or hourly basis standpoint, so increase in that pay. But there's no way that they're going to agree to the no automation. So they'll probably just give them what they want in the interim, right? Make them happy. But these corporations are playing the long game. And if you don't think that they're going to move 10 times faster to automate just out of spite by the way they negotiated, I mean, come on. You're going to see R&D spend on automation boom. At least that's my prediction. We'll see. We have the Park Hyatt Hotel here. I just feel as if we're at a really interesting point in not only the US economy, but the global economy, right? Because much of the newsletter that I sent out today was based in and around monetary policy changes abroad, specific with the focus in Asia Pacific, with a really, really hard focus in China. The PBOC has just totally gone a complete 180 turnaround, and they're essentially going to do whatever it takes to support the economy and to support the stock market. Some of the new tools that are going to be deployed by the PBOC, are just kind of shocking, right? They're going to open up lending facilities and encourage buybacks, right? China, think about that. In China, encouraging corporations to buy back their own stock, you never have the Chinese government, right? CCP and the People's Bank of China is one and the same, right? We can be honest. Actively encouraging corporations and companies, businesses to buy back their own stock, that's pretty significant, with pretty much risk-free, right? I'll start to read off some of the things that they're going to do. It's quite eye-opening here. As we wait for the light, we'll just kind of go down the list. Now, first and foremost, the PBOC is going to cut the benchmark interest rate to 1.5%. That's down from 1.7%. They're also going to lower the cash reserve requirement by banks by a half a percentage point. Now, here's the thing that's really kind of wild. What they're going to do is they're going to cut interest rates on existing mortgages by 0.5%, right? Now, that is true. You heard that correct. They're going to cut interest rates on existing mortgages. So if you have debt outstanding on a mortgage, right, a home loan, your monthly payment is going to be reduced significantly, and you're going to save a lot of the money over the long-term cost of that loan, right? Because your interest rate on your home loan is going to go down by 0.5%. Just think about the trickle-down effects that that's going to have on the economy. Increased consumer spending, increased consumer confidence, just like the relief people are going to have. They're going like all out here. In addition, they're going to lower the down payments on second homes from 25% to 15%. So those mandatory down payments are going from 25 to 15%. Now, notice how a lot of these stimulative actions are based in and around the housing market. Now, we've talked about this to the point of ad nauseum. What's going on in China, specifically with the real estate focus, is like their 2008 all over again. It is an absolute catastrophe what's going on. And the CCP is essentially going all out to try to save face here. So we'll see what happens. Now, it may take a long time for the economy actually to turn around in China. I think you'll probably see like the physical economy start to turn around maybe 8 months from now. But you're going to see immediate liquidity effects here. I mean, you're already seeing Chinese stocks getting bid up. And usually equities in the market moves 6 months forward looking, right? So not only is that going to impact the Chinese market, it's going to, explode global liquidity and really, really help out Asia, for sure. Hey, Sabine is here, Nikita Harris. Welcome to New York City's 57th Street, right on the corner of 57th and Broadway. Brad's Brains says that could destroy financial firms and mortgage brokers who projected based on the rates they have on the books. That's bizarre. There's probably going to be like some backdoor bailout stimulative program to accommodate all that. If you go to the PBOC website, you can listen to the transcription. Let's just try to cross here without getting hit by these vehicles. Now that we've made it across safe. Essentially, the PBOC has signaled to the market that they're going to do everything and anything to support not only the economy in China, but the equity. And I've been burned, let me just preface this by saying, I've been burned massively in the past by investing into Chinese stocks, particularly Alibaba, for a myriad of reasons, right? Number one, communism just doesn't work. So China has essentially become an uninvestable market, because why would I risk my capital in China when I could invest and get exposure to India, and the Indian markets are performing amazing, when I could get exposure to the US, right? I don't need to take that excessive risk. And that's why you've seen such compression in PE ratios, right? You have some of the, the leading tech companies in the world in China, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, trading at single-digit multiples, but growing at double-digit pace. It's the craziest thing. So the problem is, do these stocks fundamentally re-rate? Do you see a multiple expansion there in Baidu and Alibaba and Tencent due to this recent stimulus by the PBOC? Or is this just another bear trap? That's the question, and I don't know the answer to it. I'm a little bit skeptical, mainly because I've been burned on these stocks in the past. Reggie44 says never trust Chinese stocks. Patient Lobster says I have 25% of my portfolio invested in India. Well, then you must have been doing really well, because Indian markets are performing really well. A lot of the IPO activity in Asia, I should say South Asia, is coming out of India. You would think it would be coming out of Singapore, but the IPO market in Singapore has been significantly lackluster, almost non-existent, for a myriad of reasons. I think that's going to turn around, by the way, but we'll see. Singapore is another thing I wanted to talk about tonight. Brad's Brain says they'll have to print money to do this, though. It just seems like a bad long-term play. I don't disagree, but you're going to come to a point, I think, where everyone is just going to have to print money. So it almost guarantees the investor one thing. It guarantees the erosion in purchasing power over time with inflation of asset prices. So we're probably going to go back, well, I should say not go back. We're going to have a continuation of this cycle where you have a broadening out of the top, I should say 10% of individuals in the world by net worth. They're going to continue to get wealthier and wealthier. And the people who unfortunately just don't own any assets are going to get crushed, because the debasement of these currencies is going to be massive, right? they're essentially, nations around the world are essentially going to have to sacrifice their currencies at the expense of growth. They have to do it. Now, China's GDP projections, I believe, is 5%. That's their target. They're probably going to miss that. And that's why they're throwing everything that they got at this economy, because they're not going to hit the 5%. Very, very lackluster growth there. They'll probably hit the 5% with all this newfound stimulus, but we'll see. Great says, any thoughts on the Russell 2000? When will small caps make a big move? It's a good question. The Russell 2000 should start to perform better now that interest rates are coming down. So small cap companies tend to be very indebted. They tend to have very high debt balances to run their businesses. And in a higher interest rate environment, it becomes very, very difficult to service your debt, right? That's why, right, if you look at a chart of the Russell 2000, if you go to TradingView, if you pull up on your Bloomberg terminal and you type in IWM, right as the Federal Reserve started quantitative tightening, small caps got crushed, right? A 500 basis point Fed funds rate increase crushed small caps. So, like I said, if you type CME, so the CME group, it'll take you to the Fed Futures Watch tool. And if I'm not mistaken, you can pull it up right now, it's real time, it updates. They're pricing in for the end of Q1 of 2025, so March, end of March, right? 2025, the Fed funds rate will be in a range of maybe 3.25% to 3.5%. That's huge. That implies about another, 100 basis points or 50 to 100 basis points worth of cuts within the next 3 to 4 months. Within the next 6 months. So maybe that will start to spark a little bit of movement in small caps. You never know. Hey, DM is here. What's going on? This is the corner of West 60th Street. Patient lobsters, just depends if they'll be World War III. I mean, who knows? I think you'd probably know better than all of us, right? About World War III. Crude oil is starting to catch a bid. If you remember, we were talking about right as Iran launched the missile attack, I think it was reported, over 500 missiles were launched at Israel. Crude really wasn't doing too much. Like, once I saw the news hit on my phone, the first thing I pulled up was crude oil, right? And I'm like, crude is actually not catching that much of a bid. But today, you kind of saw crude ramp a bit. I think we're at $73 a barrel. You have a pretty nice big green candle there, so we'll see. Hey, Brandy, what's going on? Says, hey, Tom, it's been a while. Hope all is well. Likewise, I hope all is well with you. Hey, Michelle K, welcome. We're walking up Broadway. I think what I want to do again tonight, since the weather's so nice, let's take another drive by Lincoln Center. Maybe we'll go a little bit further over to the west side and check out Fordham University. And this is the backside of 15 Central Park West. Now, if you didn't see last night on the stream, we actually had a guest appearance by the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein. Seemed like a pretty nice guy. Roberts, is all this talk about World War III is stupid. World War III would mean the end of civilization. I mean, you're not wrong, but it's just the news cycle, right? The news needs to drive clicks to sell advertising, and they need something to keep you fearful, essentially. Patient Lobsters just depends if China invades Taiwan. You know, I'm not a geopolitical expert. My track record on geopolitics and foreign wars is pretty terrible. But here's the way I think about the potential invasion of Taiwan. And my answer is, think about what we just talked about. Right, everybody? I mean, what did we just kind of go over as it relates to China? Their economy is reeling. It's not doing well. Again, it kind of goes to the narrative of, you know, fear in the media. How many times do you say that? How many times do you hear or read that China is set to overtake the United States as the world's leading superpower, and nobody is going to be using the US dollar anymore? They're going to be transacting in the renminbi, the Chinese currency. But if you look at the data and you look at what, you know, just happened with the People's Bank of China, they are essentially throwing everything they got to support the economy and to support the stock market, including cutting interest rates and cutting opening lending operations to help corporations buy back their own stock, and to do backdoor bailouts to actually go in the market and buy stocks to support the price. So the economy is not doing good at all. They're just probably emerging out of one of the worst real estate crises since 2008. So do you think they're in any type of political power to invade a country right now? I would say no. I would say no. Hey, Mark Francis, what's up? Frank says the same thing was said about Japan in the 80s. Chloe says, I've been hearing the same thing for a decade. Of course. Now, the new grift on the street is getting everybody so fearful of BRICS. Now, maybe I'm just being too nonchalant about the whole thing, but BRICS is a non-issue for the US dollar. Okay, a total non-issue in my opinion. Hey, what's up, Joe East? Good evening, Tom and crew, just tuning in. Thanks for joining. We're walking a little bit on the upper west side of Manhattan. Michael G says, Tom, what is your thoughts on investing in international funds these days? Well, I wrote a little bit about it today. If you scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, it'll bring you to the latest investor letter that I just wrote and published probably about 30 minutes ago. And we spent a lot of time. Now, usually I write about predominantly US equities, but I think what's going on with this massive shift in monetary policy over in China is just too big to ignore. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in Asia, right? I listed my 3 top bull ideas for Asia and South Asia. If you're too risk averse to kind of get involved in China, I totally understand. Totally understand. I've been burned by Chinese stocks myself, trust me. I mean, if you want to ask somebody about losing money in Chinese stocks, you know, give me a call. I'll tell you how to lose money in Chinese stocks, okay? But with all of this quantitative easing happening by the central bank in China, which is the second largest world central bank, I think you're going to see some outperformance here in China, but that's also going to help and support other economies in Asia. If you look at South Asia, I think India is your number one go. Then I would say Japan is number 2. Number 3 would be Korea, and then I'd probably rank Korea and Singapore in the same light there. So we wrote a little bit about that in the newsletter, so go ahead and check it out. I think it's an interesting bull thesis on Singapore because you have an extreme stock market, right? The Straits Times Index, the STI, which is the Singapore stock market benchmark, has been extremely lackluster in performance. Extremely lackluster. It has failed to reach a new all-time record high since 2007. But I think you're going to see new all-time record highs for Singapore, mainly because the government is finally getting involved here to help make the market more liquid. It's a very thinly traded market, and they need to attract new issues. They need to attract IPOs to the country. But most people are choosing not to go public in Singapore due to regulations, due to disclosures, and also just due to the lack of liquidity. But that is being addressed by Singapore. So I would argue that over the next 5 to 10 years, if we break out of that base on the STI, I mean, you're going to see much higher prices in Singapore. So if you want to read a little bit more about that, you can scan the QR code on your screen. But here we are again at Lincoln Center. It looks beautiful tonight. Hey Brad, thanks for joining. Get well soon. I know you've been under the weather, so make sure you load up on vitamin C, and please get well. 0 divided by 0 says Bitcoin is trying to climb back up. Yeah, that's true. Also, you know, Bitcoin, it's been trying to form this handle. I mean, in full transparency, I thought it was going to break out already to the upside, but it hasn't. You've had more of an outperformance in gold, which is fine too. I mean, I'm long gold. But gold has performed absolutely fantastic, and Bitcoin is trying to form this handle here. My one concern with Bitcoin, and I'm still uber long and uber bullish Bitcoin, but the longer a handle takes to form, the higher probability you get a breakdown instead of a breakout. So that is one thing I'm watching. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's going on? Hopefully you're well. This kind of reminds me of The Great Gatsby here a little bit. Patient Lobster says, anyone have experience with E2 visas? Actually, yes, I have a lot of experience with E2 visa. Send me an email. E2, H1B, I'm going through that entire process. So, yeah, let me know. If you need help or you know someone who needs help, absolutely, send me an email. Hey, hang with Mark Mom. This is quiet night in New York City. Hope you're well. Likewise. It is a very quiet night tonight for once. We're just here hanging out, checking out Lincoln Center yet again. I think the biggest question in and around China, right, is that if you look at the equivalent of US companies, like the big tech companies, I think you could consider them, you know, the Magnificent Seven companies. If you look at Alibaba, if you look at Tencent, if you look at Baidu and some of the other big ones, you know, China has had such a bad rap for so long because they're communist, right? I mean, if you just, I mean, think about this, right? A little bit off topic, but imagine the success and the growth China would have if they embraced capitalism. I mean, that's just a guarantee right there. If China was not communist, then the conversation that China would overtake the United States, we could have that conversation. But until then, it's just not even a conversation. It's just nonsense. I mean, the fact that they're doing as well as they are under a communist regime is surprising to me. And I think the Chinese are going to acknowledge that with the way their economy is going right now, and maybe they kind of turn a little bit more pro-business. And I think if they do that, you're going to see a wave of liquidity shifting into China. But until then, I don't know. Is this just a temporary bottom for China, or are we going to see a new bull market? Again, a lot of those stocks have double-digit, growth. Their businesses are growing at double-digit, but unfortunately, they're trading at like single-digit price to earnings. Optimus 17ths, they hold themselves back from success. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, perhaps. Regis has put money in Singapore. Well, if you look at, there's a very, very high weighting in the Singapore index to REITs, like real estate investment trusts, and also a lot of financials like big banks. So another thesis that I have is, while interest rates are coming down all over the world, you're starting to see the STI creep up near new all-time record highs. I believe we're about 290 points, maybe about 300 points away from a brand new all-time record high in Singapore. If you really see an explosion in earnings growth in REITs, which we may see as interest rates come down, I think you could see a new high. But again, the problem in Singapore, it's very, very different, because you hear that Singapore is such a business-friendly environment, which it is. It's attracting so much capital from around the world, which it is, that's true. But if you look at their public equity markets, it's significantly lackluster. And the number one factor, in my view, is the lack of liquidity. It's a very, very thinly traded market. So you've actually had a greater amount of companies delisting in Singapore than listing. So the imbalance is massive between new issues or new companies going public and companies coming off the market. And that's a big problem, because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business and you want to go public, right, you're going to want your stock price to do well. And in order for your stock price to do well, you're going to need liquidity. You don't want to IPO and then no one buys the stock and it goes nowhere, right? So you need higher trading volumes, you need better liquidity, and you also need better like corporate disclosures and regulatory disclosures there. Which, by the way, again, all of these kind of factors are culminating at the same time. You have the technicals, which, the STI looks really, really good, and then you have the fundamentals all corroborating together at once, because the government, right, the Singapore government is really doing everything that they can to address this liquidity problem. Random walks as US stocks are going up, but manufacturing is going down. Well, if you type exclamation point PMI in the chat, 2 days ago we just got the ISM PMI number for the manufacturing sector. But today, it's Thursday, we also just got the PMI number for the service sector of the US economy. Now, the manufacturing sector accounts for about 20% of GDP. The rest is service sector, right? Because the US, we really don't build anything. We don't really manufacture anything anymore. And we got the best services PMI number we've gotten in the last 12 months today. So the service sector in the US economy is quite literally firing on all cylinders. It's never been doing better than it is right now in the last 12 months. And that's not just me spewing bullshit. That is the print that just came out. So I think that's probably the reason why you've had really, really good market performance in the US, is because the largest sector of our economy is the strongest performing sector in our economy. And that's really, really good, right? I mean, if the service sector was in the tank and we were in severe contraction in the services sector, well, then that's a big problem. I mean, you probably wouldn't see, the GDP numbers that we've been able to pull. Which, by the way, another kind of upbeat, positive piece of news is the Q2 GDP print just got revised upward, which is very good. And again, we always go back to that correlation between GDP growth and S&P 500 returns 6 months later, right? About 70% of the time, we get a positive GDP print. 6 months later, the S&P 500 is positive about 70% of the time. So US GDP just revised up it was revised up 2-3% annually, which is great news. And keep in mind, that was before we did all this quantitative easing that the Federal Reserve is just starting to do. So if the holiday season really blows this thing out of the water, I mean, this could be pretty good. We're now at Columbus Circle. Hey, we have Dee here. What's up, Dee? Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure. The LT prods, as if the jobs report is not the Goldilocks zone. Is not in the Goldilocks zone, the market will have a negative reaction. The LT prod, I think we're getting the jobs numbers tomorrow, right? I believe so. I think the jobs numbers come out tomorrow, so we'll see. I saw some sort of a whisper number on X today, and it was looking like we may have a massive beat by like 150,000 jobs. The LT prods is Taiwan Semiconductor doing really well. Carl Roth's Tom, election calm after election day will spur huge gains over the holidays. People will laugh at all the political garbage. That's really what I'm hoping, Carl. I think people really are taking the politics too seriously. Well, let me rephrase that. The media is pushing such deception and such lies that it's really getting people at each other's throats. And that's not cool, in my view. So I think I agree. If you look at our newsletter that we just sent out, so if you check your email, I included a section, and it was a really, really interesting section, on the massive blow-off in volatility from October 3rd to November 5th. And the VIX tends to have a massive rally that ends 5 days before election day. So kind of what I'm thinking is, to Carl's point, if we get a massive volatility event, right, maybe we have a little bit of a sell-off in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, to me, right, that would be a short-term event-driven, an irrationally driven move, which leads me to believe that would be a massive buying opportunity, right? Because of all the things we talked about. Not only is the Federal Reserve switching from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing, but we have US GDP not only expanding, but expanding faster than anticipated. The magic elixir would be if this jobs number tomorrow comes in and just blows the doors off of it. That would be another, the trifecta of economic activity firing on all cylinders in the US. So if you have, let's say if we have President Trump gets elected, right? You would have half the country, brainwashed by the media, thinking that that's going to be the end of democracy and the world's going to end. It's not. You'll probably have a little sell-off, and I would just buy everything. Like everything you can get your hands on that's American, you should buy, in my view, not advice. Same thing if President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, if they get elected, you'll have half the country that's been brainwashed by Fox News to believe that we're going to turn into a communist regime. They're going to be selling everything. They're going to be freaking out. And you should, you should stay up all day and night just buying everything you can get your hands on that's American. That's kind of the plan. Because it's obvious, right? If you really take a step back and you turn off CNN and you turn off Fox News, not only is your life going to be better, you're probably going to have more friends, you're going to be more personable, people are going to want to be around you more because you're just generally going to be a nicer person, but you're probably going to make more money because you're going to be betting on the fundamentals of the US economy, and that is a powerhouse right now.
90th and first? Oh yeah, that's right. I understand.
Concars 1, 2, 3, 4 says, so buy American either way. Pretty safe way to say nothing. If that's what you interpret that diatribe to be, then for sure. I think the overarching point about that little 2-minute tangent is don't make investing decisions based upon Rachel Maddow or who's the other guy on Fox News. Make investing decisions based upon the real GDP numbers in the US economy. That's kind of the point. So turn off Sean Hannity, turn off Rachel Maddow, and look at the drivers, right? We review this every night on the stream to the point of ad nauseum, right? At least this is the way I was taught to trade, invest, and be a portfolio manager. Look at the leading economic indicators and make decisions based upon the leading economic indicators, the corroborating economic indicators, and the lagging. And it's important because for probability, if you want to position your portfolio, right? If we know that 70% of the time GDP print comes in positive, 6 months later, the performance of the S&P 500, 70% of the time it's positive. So if you keep getting these massively positive GDP prints, but your entire portfolio is net short, well, just based on statistics, and I mean, I'm really terrible at math. I took like maybe 2 stats courses in college. If you're net short on your portfolio, when you have Q1, Q2, and now Q3 GDP coming in positive with an extra revision higher, there's probably going to be more long ideas in the market than short ideas. That's the overarching theme. So focus on the fundamentals, focus on the GDP print, focus on the earnings, and turn off Rachel Maddow. That's really about it. Hey, what's up, Paul? Oh, is that right? Ken Roberts used to say, turn off the news, stupid. That was back in the 1990s. I mean, I think I'm much more sane without watching the news, because there's always something to worry about, right? There's always some despair going on. Yeah, that's true. New England crypto says we're in for a wild ride, one way or the other. It's very exciting. Now, where is the VIX at today? If you look at the VIX, VIX, I think the VIX was up 8% today, and we're pretty elevated, right? I think we're in the 20s on the VIX. The VIX, let me actually look that up. Or maybe somebody in the audience could look that up. Which correlates with exactly what we were talking about. Let me pull it up here. Okay, here's the tweet, everyone. This is by David Marlin. He's a really good follow on X. He says, the US election is traditionally a risk-clearing event for the market, regardless of the winning party. Historically, we see market volatility rise into the event and subside after. So October 2nd, you see a blow-off just before the election, and then a return to normal. So maybe, if you're really, really into the politics, maybe don't make trading decisions based upon the election, because you're probably gonna lose money, or dislodge a lot of core positions in really, really good companies. Wayne McKay says the CBOE volatility index is 20.49. Yeah, it was up 8% today. So I mean, something is cooking. I mean, we could possibly get like the biggest fat pitch of the year is possibly coming up. I'm not saying it's 100% lock, but it is possible. We have, let's say a yen carry trade style sell-off that scares the hell out of everyone. And if you just, plug your nose, close your eyes, and just hit the buy button and wake up in 6 months, I mean, you could get a double on some of these individual names. If the sell-off happens, we'll see. Start to head downtown. This is the corner of 57th Street. Hey, what's up, Patrice? Hey, Clarence Jackson says the night when Donald Trump was projected to be the winner, Carl Icahn left Trump's party to buy more stocks. Really? Oh my gosh.
I love your channel.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for watching, man.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, when are you going back to Miami?
I should be going back next week, actually. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there the week of the 9th. So I'll be there for like 3 or 4 days. Are you guys from Miami?
Well, South Carolina.
Oh wow! Were you guys cool with the hurricane or what?
So we didn't have powers for 4 days, and then
Holy
Asheville,
crap!
I don't know.
So Asheville is just like totally flooded with the landslides and all that, like the mud.
That's horrible, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I have a few friends who live in South Carolina, like it's a small town like Pauline, South Carolina. But yeah, it's like right on the border there, and they were totally decimated. It's crazy.
And then we live in Greer, South Carolina, which is about an hour, 15 minutes away from Asheville.
Oh wow, damn.
I mean, Spartanburg, Greenville, Greer, there's still locations without no power. Yeah,
I think Greenville is right, or this Pauline, South Carolina is like right below there, and it was like totally. That's where the BMW is. BMW right there. Yeah,
right
I'm familiar. Yeah, with that. Damn, man. Well, I'm glad you guys, made it here in one piece.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like our little escape, and then we come back.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, it was nice meeting you guys. Hey, thank you so much.
Yesterday.
Oh, really?
When you come back, you must disappear.
Oh, really?
Rockefeller.
Oh, Rockefeller Center. Okay, yeah, nice. But yeah, guys, I mean, enjoy it. I mean, if you want to send me an email, if you need any recommendations on places to go, let me know.
So then because every time, I mean, you have a lot of fans. So it's like Frank MGA. So
that's you?
Yeah.
Oh, Frank, I'll remember that. Frank MGA.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Well, thanks for supporting. Thanks for watching. Yeah. Hey, take care, guys. Have a good one. Wow, so they just came from the Carolinas. That's insane. I mean, talk about good timing, right? That's nuts. Those are nice people. Thank you for supporting. Steve is like Tom knows where the BMW dealership is in South Carolina. No, there's one of the biggest headquarters, I think, right there. It's like a huge production facility for BMW, I think it's right there. I was looking, I'm a little bit familiar with the area around there by the airport because somebody pitched me on like a multifamily investment that I was doing a lot of diligence in. I was actually going to write a check for it, but I decided not to for other reasons. Mainly because it's a long story, but there's some pretty good opportunities for multifamily real estate right on the border there, like South Carolina, North Carolina. Anyway, that's nor here nor there, nor here nor there. Clarence Jackson says, yeah, the BMW campus is in Spartanburg, South Carolina. That's it. I know that from the pitch deck, and then I went there, they flew me out there. This Park Central Hotel was a complete renovation, complete gut during COVID. The lobby is actually quite nice. It's actually not a bad hotel. You know, Doc 7, that is crazy. I was seeing some wild stuff. Now again, this is kind of like fog of war as it relates to the hurricane. But apparently everyone's getting, what, $750? I don't know if that's like a cherry-picked amount. I think people may be getting more help. This is the Carnegie Deli. But I mean, if that's the case where everyone's really only going to get $750, it's like, guys, it's kind of like that old, I think it's like a famous poem. I forget the poem, I'm going to butcher it. But it's like, we always find money for weapons and wars. But when it comes to actually like helping us out here at home, it's like, we don't have any money. That's crazy. And I think we've gotten to a point, assuming this is true, right? It may not be true. Especially now in and around the election cycle. We need to be, people could be pushing things for political gain. So let's just assume it's true. Everyone's going to get $750. I think Americans are going to get fed up with this, and say, dude, we have all this money to house people in New York City in 4-star hotels, right? Give them debit cards loaded with money. But when it comes to Americans that have been here, right, even veterans that get decimated and blown away by a natural disaster, we only have $750. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. At least to me. And I'm not, and thank God, I wasn't affected at all by the hurricanes. Chris says, can you place bets on the political outcomes? You can. You could actually bet real money on that. Indeed, you can. I really do believe there has to be it's all a financial incentive, right? Now, we always talk about, obviously, the financial markets on the channel, but, it really does seem as if wars kind of make the money machine go round. It's like once we get ourselves out of one war, it's like we gotta, quick, let's all scramble and get ourselves into another one, right? And pick a target. Some random country in the Middle East or Iran or whatever. It's like let's pick a fight with someone and start a war. More missiles. I don't know, it's crazy. The whole thing is crazy, man.
But if not,
I think the 7, and I don't know the whole story, again, I just saw a little clip. The $750 is probably coming from like a FEMA fund as like an immediate relief check, and then the additional FEMA claims will come after. That's what I think is happening. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, now think about the ramifications of the insurance companies. Now I know it's like, who cares? But we do talk about that. But I mean, premiums in that region are probably going to blow out. Peters is there as a town in North Carolina that has some of the purest quartz, and it is used in the semiconductor industry. Now the supply is interrupted. Wow. So look for semiconductor shortages. That bad. Holy crap. Now to kind of look at things on maybe a more of a brighter side, I think we're so blessed to live in the US because we're so abundant in our natural resources, right? To kind of self-sustain in a way. A lot of the other countries we've been talking about tonight, I think the prime example would be Singapore. Singapore is actually very scarce in natural resources, right? The reason why Singapore was able to build into what they are today is really just the policies. But, the US can almost be as incompetent as they want because they're so rich. Well, I'll say we, right? I am American. We are so rich in natural resources. If you want to talk about, liquid gold, oil, I mean, we literally have unlimited amounts. That's another downfall of China. China pretty much has to import all of their oil and gas. I mean, we have a lot of people in the broadcast from all over the country. I mean, was anyone impacted by the storm, like immediately, that's in the chat? I mean, how bad is it ground floor right now in the Carolinas, would you say? Or parts of, Florida on the Panhandle? This is a good shot of 53 West 53rd Street. This is the halal guys here. Brad says, I'm from Kansas, but my family in southern Georgia had a lot of trees down and power lines from the wind. NAV 407 says the people badly need to help even to survive. Florida is somewhat isolated because of the destroyed interstate. Wow. Gary Carpenter says, I was affected, but just some debris. Hang with Mark Mom says, the hospital my husband works at just deployed a dozen healthcare workers to North Carolina last week to assist. Crazy. So what is it? A lot of people didn't know to evacuate? Because usually, I mean, with a 20-foot storm surge, right? Obviously, I'm talking about the places on the coast as it comes to the storm surge, but I mean, is it just that some people ignored the evacuation warnings or they didn't have the means to evacuate? I mean, if I see a 20-foot storm surge where the experts are calling it, to use their words, unsurvivable, I'm out of there. I mean, I am out. Yeah, T-Maxes probably couldn't afford to evacuate. That's a factor that a lot of people don't take into consideration. And also think about the seniors, right? Think about if you are a senior citizen, maybe you live alone. I mean, you can't evacuate. It's impossible. That's a good point. Geez, 30 inches of rain. Townhouse is Tom Lithium Mining Company to start mining in the exact spot that was hit by the hurricane. Brian says, Tom, we were without power for 4 days, and some are still without power for 7 days now. Now, Brian, did you have a generator at all? Geez, without power for 4 days. Brian says, Tom, the water treatment plants were brought back online last week. Lots of power poles and trees down. The administration had initially denied the state of disaster declaration, meaning no one was. And then I guess you'll type something else. Damn. You drove 2 hours to get a small generator. Jeez. So I bought, when I first moved into my home in Florida, in Miami, one of the first things my neighbors told me is, do you have a generator? I'm like, should I get one? And they're like, yeah, you probably should. So I have a generator at my place. Michaela says, I'm assuming here, but I think people ignored the warnings because from what I saw before the storms, there was a lot of warnings from the officials. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we're currently standing on the corner of West 51st Street and 6th Avenue. You're looking at the Radio City Music Hall here. Peters is a portable generator or a generator for the whole house. I have a generator for the whole house. It's a Generac generator. It's supposed to automatically turn on if the power trips. At least that's what from my understanding. So. Hey, Leanne, what's up? Says the storm was so far inland in the Carolinas, it didn't even affect the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina. It affected areas so far inland. That's the thing that's crazy, right? I mean, you would think when you hear hurricane, you think, wow, everyone on the coast is going to get destroyed. But to your point, that's probably why they're having such a hard time dealing with this. That's probably another reason, right? They probably don't have the resources and the preparedness or the experience to deal with something like this that far inland. It's terrible. I think someone in the chat said 200 people passed away. It's insane. It's insane. I wonder what the projections are for how much it's going to cost to rebuild. I wonder if it'll eclipse like Hurricane Katrina or something like that. How much did it cost to rebuild after Katrina? Now, I also see a lot of these posts on X and things like that saying, you know, at what point are we going to stop rebuilding in these places that keep getting decimated by hurricanes? But it's like, it's a tough question, because on one hand, it's like, you know, you want as many people as possible to be safe. You don't want anybody to die. But it also, life has to go on. And a lot of these places where these hurricanes generally tend to hit, they're beautiful, right? I mean, look at Florida. It just is a way of life. I mean, we just got something we got to deal with it. Type username. There's still 150,000 without power. Asheville has been set back 50 years. Joe Teese is $14.6 billion from the federal government for Hurricane Katrina. Whew. Hey, what's up, JC? This is Amina Ventura. I heard you saying that you're in Sunny Isles. I will be back in Miami next week for a few days. I have a tenant moving out. And I got to meet my boss down there too. I'll be in Miami from the 8th to the 11th. I actually should probably buy my ticket. It's funny because sometimes if you wait until like 4 days before you travel, the tickets are actually more affordable for some reason. Wow, Roberts is Asheville, North Carolina is total devastation. When I get home, I'm gonna look up some YouTube videos of Asheville. There's probably some incredible footage coming out of there. Mark Francis says, "Oh, Tom, next week there's a tropical storm that's going to hit Florida." Phew. Just my luck. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. Chris A says, "Do I ever sleep?" Yeah, I sleep. Now, if you want to take it a step further, if you think about the terrible situation the US is in as it relates to our deficits, now FEMA has come out, I think today, and said that we're just at the beginning of hurricane season, and they said something along the lines that we can't afford to have another storm because we just don't have the money to rebuild. Something along those lines. So, I mean, we literally don't have the money to spend to repair these places. Now, technically we do, right? You could just print it. But going back to that original conversation, it seems like we have money for all these wars and to funnel money, to Eastern Europe for more tanks and drones and bombs. But, when it comes to a major natural disaster, it's like we put we get our calculators and our pens and pencils out and see how we're going to pay for this. But we never ask how we're going to pay for, all these proxy wars and wars. It's crazy. The whole thing is absolutely crazy. Now, the scary thing is, I don't know if anyone has been in New York City through Hurricane Sandy. I mean, yes, it is true that New York City has had significant infrastructure improvement projects post-Sandy. That is true. But from an anecdotal observational standpoint, I mean, I'm talking about, my God, if it's like a really bad rainy day in New York, the subways are going to be cascading waterfalls, particularly at 34th Street Penn Station, 42nd Street Times Square. And that's not an exaggeration. I've actually posted some videos of this online. And these are just random rainstorms out of nowhere in the summer. It overflows our sewer system, and the subway is like Grand Rapids. It's like your, Colorado Rapids here. It's crazy. Just tons of water cascading down the stairs at Penn Station. It's like you're on the Titanic and everything is sinking. So the point I'm trying to make is, imagine if New York City got hit with one of those storms, 30 inches of rain, we would be underwater. I mean, if you don't think New York City would quite literally be underwater, I mean, you must not, have lived through Hurricane Sandy. When Lower Manhattan, the subway stations there, were filled to the top with water. We had to have the Army Corps of Engineers come in and pump the water out. Yeah, Mr. T-Dog says that's some gross water too. Yeah, true. That's why they say don't swim in the Hudson River or do any activities in the Hudson after a massive rainstorm. Not that, I mean, I don't think you should be swimming in the Hudson River in the first place, but they always put those warnings because the water treatment facility that's right on the west side of the highway, it gets at max capacity and the raw sewage just gets released into the Hudson River. Not a lot of people know about that, by the way, but that's true. Hang with Mark Mom says, Tom, yep, when Hurricane Sandy hit New York and New Jersey, I was without power for a month. Holy crap. No generator either. I use my gas grill every night until my freezer ran out of food. Oh my gosh. Hang with Mark Mom. I think at that point I would have probably just, I don't know. But to your point, if you think about Long Beach, New York, Atlantic Beach, where else? Like Oceanside, Center Avenue, pretty much all of South Shore, Long Island was totally underwater and incapacitated. I think some parts of Queens, like Breezy Point, got hit really bad that were without running water even. Staten Island was crazy. I know T-Max is New York State trying to go all electric. That's crazy. There's, if you look at a lot of the new developments, to your point, all of them have electric. And I've been with clients that is the only thing that's a deal breaker for them. Particularly Europeans, by the way. I've had some European clients see some really, really nice buildings here, brand new. They love everything, and then when they get to the kitchen, they're like, wait, what? This is an electric cooktop in a, $7 million apartment? Yeah, no, it's a deal breaker. Which, to be honest, it really is. Maybe this may sound crazy to other people watching from around the US, but I'd say if you're from the Northeast, we cook with gas here. And if you want to build a new building in Manhattan, there's going to be no gas. You have to do it with electric. Anyway, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually do these every single night starting at 8:45. And just as a quick reminder, everyone, we just sent out our free investing newsletter tonight. So go ahead and check your email. We covered a lot. We talked about quantitative easing happening in China, additional quantitative easing happening in the US, some interesting trade ideas. So go ahead and check your email, or if you're not signed up, you could scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and it'll take you to our Substack. You're not going to want to miss this week's issue. So go ahead and check it out. This is an interesting shot looking northbound. Hang with Mark Maham says, yep, gas in the Northeast. I was horrified to see Floridians use electric. That's true. That's the one thing that sucks about Florida. Everything is electric. I don't like electric, man. But the good news is, like, you can boil a pot of water in like 2 seconds with an electric range. But I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the food tastes good on electric range. Shelby GT says I'm in Florida and we use gas. Nice. What part of Florida? Because I'm in Miami. I'm in Miami-Dade and everything is electric. At least in my neighborhood where I am. Now, although I do have a natural gas line in my backyard, I guess I could hook up like an outdoor grill. Hey, Jonathan from Florida says I'm electric in Pompano Beach. Shelby GT says gas is way better, agreed. Wow, look at the Empire State Building. So this is the corner of West 43rd Street. Damn, that looks really nice. I think this is the color for the New York Mets, right? Ah, nice. Very nice. Shelby GT says, what do you guys think about all the bioengineering in our food supply? I don't really think about it too much, but I have been thinking about it ever since I came back from South Korea, because the food tasted different there. And not just like the prepared food, I'm talking about like the fruits, the vegetables, everything. Just tasted different. Now we're walking right past the Bank of America Tower. This is Brian Moynihan's company. Shelby GT says the food tastes even better in Europe. They're definitely putting something in the food. Now, didn't the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, recently ban a particular cereal? Do we have any people from Cali in here? I saw something. Gavin Newsom banned Fruit Loops or something? Because the ingredients that are in the Canadian Fruit Loops are different than the US. They use these chemicals. I mean, I don't doubt it. I mean, I'm not... MD says, yes, the color dyes. DC322 says banning food additives. Now, I'm not a big fan of Gavin Newsom at all, but I have a lot of respect for that piece of legislation. So I think in that case, I think we agree. I'd give Gavin Newsom 2 thumbs up on that. This is Salesforce Tower. On that topic, right, and I think it is quite an important topic, because if you think about health in the United States, that actually really does impact the economy. You may not think it does, but it does. Look at the percentage of GDP that the US spends on healthcare. We spend more on healthcare than any other first world nation in the world, but yet we're one of the most unhealthy. So we have this crazy divergence here. Look at this one wheel thing. So we have this crazy divergence here where we're spending so much money on healthcare, but yet we're not getting any healthier. This just proves my point that money doesn't solve issues, right? I mean, California has been throwing billions and billions of dollars to solve homelessness. It's only made the problem worse, right? Money doesn't solve any problems, right? What solves the problems are the capital allocators. If you have an inept capital allocator, it's going to make the problems worse. If anything, money will explode the problem, right? So you need good stewardship of the money. But if you ever walk, down a grocery store aisle, right, and you walk down the cereal aisle, it's almost unrecognizable anymore, is it not? I mean, I used to not really pay attention too much. I'm not a big cereal guy, but sometimes I'll eat cereal, like Honey Bunches of Oats and things like that. I think it tastes pretty good. But some of the cereals that they're selling now, how are we putting that in a breakfast aisle? You have to put that in like a dessert aisle. Like, some of this stuff is crazy. It's literally like, it's not breakfast food. I think they should have to categorize it in a different aisle. Like, put it in the pastries section. I mean, that's not cereal. MD says cereal is so bad for you. I kind of like some cereal. Not gonna lie. Someone says it's the seed oils. I mean, I don't doubt it. I think I mentioned this before, but look, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any sort of experience. I have no medical degree. So don't listen to me for anything health related. Okay, I have zero idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, the seed oils, I've tried to cut out seed oils. From what I've read, seed oils are some of the worst things that you could put in your body. Again, this is just from I'm not a doctor, so don't come at me if you disagree. Mario says, will Spirit Airlines go bankrupt? Hopefully. No, I don't actually mean that. I don't mean I hope Spirit Airlines goes bankrupt. Well, maybe I do. It depends on my mood. But I think Spirit Airlines is the Greyhound bus of the skies. It is so bad. I mean, you honestly couldn't pay me to fly Spirit. I mean, that's my only kind of qualm about anything. I'm not a materialistic guy. I don't really indulge in like luxury stuff. It's just not who I am. I'm not saying it's bad if you do, but the one thing I will never do is I will never take the bus again. I'm talking about the mega bus. I will never travel by bus. I don't care if I have to take out a second mortgage on my house. I will never take the bus again, and I will never fly Spirit Airlines. I don't care if the ticket's $200 more, it's not happening. Because every time you turn on the local news or you watch like a viral clip on like Instagram or X about airports, what's the logo you always see in the background? It's Spirit Airlines every time. It's either someone's trying to, assault somebody on the aircraft, they're trying to assault the staff, They're trying to open the doors while the aircraft is in the air. So it's not happening. That's my only two things. I'll do whatever else, but I will not fly Spirit, and I will never take the Megabus again. Those are my only two things. I'll do anything else. I'll, live in a little tiny shoebox apartment, sleep on a yoga mat. I don't care. I'm in. Not taking Spirit Airlines. Not happening. Now, this building that you see to the right, West 37th Street, I think this is going to be mixed use, but I also believe there's going to be a residential piece. We'll have to get a little bit closer and check it out, but this is going to be a pretty unique looking building. It's going to stand, it's going to tower over the Harrier building. It's going to look a little weird because you really don't have a super tall building up until Bryant Park, like Bank of America Tower. Everything is pretty low. So I should say all pre-war, I guess would be the more appropriate term, I guess. All right, let's cross. Does anyone feel the same about, what's it called? The airlines? What's your go-to airline if you had to say one? Tug Carter says that's why it's called Spirit Airlines. People are so spirited. I usually fly American. I'm seeing a lot of Delta, Southwest, MD says I like Delta and Alaska. Wow, Delta only. Okay, JetBlue, Alan says Delta. It's so strange, I haven't seen one person say American. Now, what was the craziest flight that I've ever been on? And when I'm talking crazy, this is in a positive context. Korea Air. If you've ever flown Korea Airlines, it's massive. I think it's the largest commercial aircraft in the world. There was a shopping, not like a whole shopping mall, but there was a little shop. So you could get up in the middle of your flight, you could go to the store and shop for things and look around. It was pretty cool. And it's 2 stories. So you take the spiral staircase to the upper level, you could walk around. It's pretty cool. It was a really cool experience. Now, the only downside about Korea Air, which is the reason why I'll never fly Korea Air again, I'll only fly the Asiana, is because they don't have any Wi-Fi. I think you're right, in Airbus 380. I think you're correct. But I couldn't believe that. So Korea Air, they don't have any Wi-Fi, which I thought they did. So on the way back, when I flew from Incheon Airport to JFK at Direct, I flew Asiana because they have Wi-Fi. That's the only reason why I won't fly Korea Air. This is the Harrier building. Chris A says, how did you survive? I had one newspaper. Well, that's not true. I had 2 newspapers. I had the Wall Street Journal for that day, and I had the Investor's Business Daily, and I quite literally read every single article multiple times where I could recite the exact article to you verbatim. That's pretty much all I did. I didn't really have anything else. So I'm like, all right, let's hunker down. So that 15-hour flight was difficult because I've never been on a 15-hour flight before. But the way back was nothing. It was the easiest flight ever on the way back. I think with the way the jet stream works, from JFK to Incheon, South Korea, it's 15 and a half hours. But on the way back, it's maybe 2 hours shorter. I think maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hours shorter. So it's not bad.
To be fair, him, like, dude, I can't lie.
And you have like 2 or 3 meals too. They give you food right as you get on the plane. So like the moment you get on, you take off, they start the in-flight service. Then they give you like a little snack, maybe about halfway. And then 4 hours before you land, you get food again. All right, so we're here at Herald Square,
It's like,
34th Street. Yeah, Red just says read a book. It's funny, so I brought a book, but I left it in my checked bag. And the book I brought, I think it's called Retrain Your Brain. Mr. T-Dog says, was I first class? No way. A first class ticket from JFK to Korea, I think is almost $10,000. There's no way I'm spending $10,000 on a plane ticket, even if I'm, as rich as, Ken Griffin. There's no way. I think that's such a waste. I don't know, that's nuts. I just can't justify spending $10,000 just to sit down for 14 hours. It's just such a waste of money, I think.
I don't care about that.
So I flew economy, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't bad at all. And about a week before the trip, I was going crazy on Reddit. I was on Reddit every night, reading every single forum about flying to Korea, how to survive 15 hours. And everyone was saying if you're over 6 foot tall, you've got to get a little bit bigger of a seat. You have to spend like $250 to get just a little bit bigger seat. So that's what I did. I'm not over 6 foot tall. I'm 5, usually like, depending on the shoes I wear, I'm like 5'5". If I take off my shoes, I'm usually 5'4", but still, it's, I just can't, I gotta have more room. So the ticket was like maybe $1,100. I think on the way back it was like $900. But yeah, definitely not spending $10,000. Let's make this left here. We'll go down one of the side streets. There's a good Chinese restaurant here to the left. Joyful One says I did economy from Incheon Airport to LAX. Very nice. Now, what is the longest flight route in the world? Does anyone know that? Who can guess? This is a little bit of trivia. Does anyone want to guess the longest flight route in the entire world? Travel BC says I paid $1,300 on Air New Zealand. Bart R says Texas to Australia. JFK to Singapore says NMB 45. Ed says JFK to Sydney. Alfonso says NYC to Singapore. Now, the honest answer is I don't know. I just thought it'd be a fun trivia question. I'm actually curious myself. Could anyone Google that? What is the longest flight path in the world? If I had to guess, I actually don't know what I would guess. Someone says London to Perth. Maybe I'd guess JFK to Singapore, but I feel like Australia has to be in the mix. Don't you think so? I think Australia has to be in the mix. NMB 45 says London to Sydney. Phil says JFK to Singapore. What's the longest flight anyone's ever been on in the chat here? $14 hours, 15 hours to me is too long, man. Wow, Phil says I was 12 hours Osaka to Memphis. Patient Lobster says 15 hours Tel Aviv to LAX. Oh, is that how long that takes? From Tel Aviv to LAX, didn't know that. Wow, Doha to LAX. I'd love to go to Doha. Chris A says London to Sydney nonstop. Vivian says I can only tolerate 2 to 3 hours. Now, Vivian, I thought I was exactly like you because the flight from JFK to Miami is about 3 hours. Sometimes it's like 2 hours, 40 minutes. Sometimes it's like 3 hours. I originally thought that was my max, but then I did 14 hours. The first time it's hell. The second time it's like, it's not super bad. It's not so bad. It's just, you just gotta get through the first long flight and then you'll be fine, from what I've experienced. With no delay, by the way. Like, I couldn't imagine. So my most recent flight from Miami to JFK, it took me about 6 hours because it was delayed. We were sitting in the plane on the tarmac for 2 hours. I think actually a little bit more than 2 hours because we were delayed. And this was the first flight out of Miami to JFK. And the pilot comes over a speaker and says, since we're delayed, we actually have to be delayed even more because if we take off, we're going to delay everyone else. So we have to make sure everyone else takes off on time and then we go. I don't know. That's what he said. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be delayed on a 14-hour flight. I would just, oof, my gosh. Emmanuel says my ADHD wouldn't allow me to sit for more than 3 hours on a plane. You know, as long as you get an aisle seat, I think you're fine. If you can withstand a 5-hour plus flight without being in an aisle seat, I think you're a crazy person. I honestly believe that. If you can sit in the middle seat, or if you can sit in a window seat for a longer duration than a 5-hour flight, I mean, that is some, significant skill set. You got to be near the aisle so you can just kind of get up and walk around and really do whatever. This is going to be a good view of the Empire. Looks like they're digging up something here. Leanne says, when I moved to New York City, we were not able to land at LaGuardia, and we circled in the air for 2 hours before landing. Oh my God. Oh, in Pennsylvania, and then you had to refuel and go to LaGuardia. That is insane. So something similar, well, not really similar, So on one of my flights from Miami to New York, the pilot comes over the speaker and says there's a storm right over JFK, so we can't land. And then we're running out of fuel at the same time, so we have to land in Buffalo to refuel. I'm like, in Buffalo? I'm like, wait, if we're running out of fuel, why would we land almost 500 miles north of JFK to refuel? I didn't get it. But anyway, we landed in Buffalo, we refueled, and then we took back off to JFK. Craziness. I don't know why, but wow, circling in the air aimlessly, that sucks. See, I'll never fly into LaGuardia because the public transportation there sucks. With JFK, it's very easy. You just take the air train from JFK to Jamaica Station. You take the Long Island Railroad right to Penn Station. Very, very easy. Or you could take it to Grand Central. Either or. I would support a major infrastructure project to connect LaGuardia with the subway. I mean, that should be a thing. I mean, that's ridiculous that you have to take the bus from LaGuardia Airport. Just extend the subway line to go to LaGuardia, or just make another air train. I mean, think about the billions of dollars New York City spent on nonsense over the last 2 years. We won't get into the politics of it all, but we could have probably built like 70,000 air trains. Ooh, looks like maybe a window or something fell. Bart R says, didn't Cuomo propose the air train to LaGuardia? I think they also proposed a tunnel from the Long Island Sound, or from the North Shore of Long Island, under the Sound to Connecticut. But that was, quickly squashed. Because you got to think, right? Who lives on the North Shore of Long Island? And who lives in Connecticut? Near the water. A bunch of rich people. So they don't want us common folk being able to have an easy and seamless commute. They'd rather have, their uninterrupted mega mansions on the Long Island Sound. Now we have to go all the way to the Whitestone and the Throgs Neck Bridge just to cross over. But, I mean, what a good idea that is, right? Making a tunnel from the North Shore of Long Island under the Sound to Connecticut. That's like the best idea ever. We'll cross one more over. This is Park Avenue again. This is East 33rd Street. If you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do the live streams every single night starting at 8:45. Reggie 44 says it's too costly. Yeah, I mean, I don't accept that excuse anymore, just in my view, because we have unlimited money for nonsense. I mean, we've literally already spent billions on the migrant crisis, right? I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't have, right? But the point I'm trying to make is the money is there. It's just the urgency. It only matters is the urgency. You know, the city is willing to run deficits. You know, we've proved that through what we're doing now, but we just won't run deficits for anything of use. That's true. Yeah, Peter's like, how much are those congestion cameras that are not in use? It's another really good point, right? So we spend millions of dollars on the congestion pricing to build the cameras, and then we don't even use them. They're just kind of, you know, hanging up there on 59th Street, doing nothing. I mean, talk about a misappropriation of funds. That's like number one. That's a really nice shot of One Vanderbilt here. So we spend all the money. I mean, think about all those government contracts that went out to install those cameras, probably to run the software. I mean, we could have an entire, probably 8-hour stream talking about the misappropriation of funds, the incompetence of this city and the federal government as well. I mean, New York City, right, is quite literally a surveillance state. You can't walk any single street in this city, and I've said this before, without being on some sort of camera. It's just, there's CCTV everywhere, right? In the subways, on the street level, on all the bridges and tunnels. I mean, if you try to cross the George Washington Bridge, the Throgs Neck, the Whitestone, Holland Tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel, I mean, anything, you're gonna be on camera. That's just a fact. The only time where cameras won't work is in a maximum security prison in Lower Manhattan when Jeffrey Epstein is trying to kill himself. That's the only time there will be no cameras. When we're trying to surveil one of the most sought after criminals in the world, that's the only time the cameras won't work. I mean, is it, am I wrong? I mean, I may be sounding a little bit brash, but I'm not wrong. Oh, that's right. Ed Dunkel says, "Watch out, P. Diddy." Now, isn't he sharing a cell with Sam Bankman-Fried? Which, by the way, I think you told us this, Ed. The victims of the FTX Ponzi scheme, they're getting their money back. I think they're already starting to distribute some of the funds, which is massive. It's amazing. That's actually really good news. I'm not trying to joke around about that. That's unbelievable. I mean, how many times do we hear about these massive frauds where people just lose everything and they never get any of their money back? But it appears that everyone's going to be made whole. And they're already starting to get their money back. What do you guys think about this section of Park Avenue? I know, Steve, this is legendary stream tonight. We're probably gonna get banned. We're probably gonna get taken down. We'll see. I'll cool it on the that type of talk. But yeah, this section of Park Avenue is quite nice. I mean, could you imagine living in one of these apartments, looking out the window and that's your view of the Empire? That's incredible. And it's very quiet. I mean, we are in the heart of Midtown. We're 4 blocks away from Grand Central Station, but it's very quiet here. This is 55 Park Avenue. Really nice.
So you guys.
This is the Park Avenue Hotel across the street. Samir's his best hotel zone in Manhattan. Park Hyatt. I'd say anywhere from 57th Street to Central Park South has the best hotels in the city. This is East 39th Street. Park Avenue Tavern. And it looks to be pretty packed tonight. I'll take you guys back to the office. I know we're after the 2-hour mark. Just a quick reminder, I did send everybody our most updated investor letter. So if you want to sign up, we send out all of our stock market research every other Thursday, right at 8:45. You can scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email. It'll take you to our Substack. So go check that out. And if you're already signed up, just check your email. You should have it in your email box already. But I have to walk back up to the office anyway, so I might as well take you with me. But if you want to boogie on out of here, well, this will be after hours. '99 Park Avenue. Hey, what's up, Mohammed? I don't think I've ever seen this fountain on, ever. This is the first time I'm ever seeing it on. The LT Prod, thank you so much, appreciate it. Alan. It really depends. It really depends on what my day looks like. Generally speaking, as I've gotten older, I don't like meetings in the morning. For whatever reason, I hate having important meetings in the morning because, to be honest, I'm not a morning person, right? I'm like super efficient at night. I'm a night owl. Like I could crush out work in the afternoon and at night. That's when I am like on my A game. So I try everything that's very pressing and important has to be after 11 a.m. That's just my personality. And I think you have more productive meetings when everyone's like awake and they've had time to, wake up and get some stuff done. 8 a.m. morning meeting, everyone's asleep. I mean, we've all worked in corporate America before. If your boss is rambling on about something at 8 a.m. or you have like a vendor that's coming in, or, I mean, it's, I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I'm not very attentive. But this is Pershing Square, our good friend Bill Ackman. If you missed the live stream last night, we had a little bit of a run-in with the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. We met Lloyd Blankfein on the stream last night, right outside his house. He's a very nice guy, really nice guy. All right, let's cross here. Should we detour through Grand Central? I think it may be a little bit easier if we detour through the station. Yeah. Now, you know what's funny? So Uber has this division called Blade. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that before, but sometimes, maybe Uber is the mobility partner. Maybe this is kind of like a similar thing to Blade. I don't even know. I'll have to do some research into it. But sometimes it's cheaper to take a helicopter to JFK than to take a traditional Uber car to JFK. It's sometimes like a $20 delta, which is wild. I mean, if it's only $20 more to take a helicopter to JFK, I think I'm gonna opt for the helicopter. Anybody a Giants fan? Tug Carter's, what airport do I usually use? Usually fly out of JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport. I think that's the best. Michaelis' Irving Farm coffee, very good. I tend to think so. It's one of my favorites in the city. Let me put the phone down for a second. So this is going to merge us right onto Park. I consider this the main kind of Park Avenue. This is where all the main banks. Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. This is where all the the main banks and stuff are. You'll see the new 270 Park Avenue, which is going to be the headquarters of JP Morgan Chase. The new headquarters. You have UBS, HSBC. Oh, did anybody hear the news that Bridgewater Associates just signed a pretty big lease in Manhattan? Now, Bridgewater is the hedge fund that Ray Dalio runs. They're usually in Connecticut, but they just signed a big lease on Fifth Avenue. This is 270 Park. This thing is crazy.
And usually this one
Hey, Cy R, thank you so much for reading. Much appreciated. What do you guys think of the facade at 270 Park? This thing is crazy, crazy. Really, Jeff, you think it reminds you of 53 West 53rd? Maybe a teeny bit. But this is 432 Park Avenue in the distance. That's Harry Maclow's building. But pretty soon we're gonna get Ken Griffin from Citadel Securities building his new tower on Park. Now, when we're in Miami next week, I'm going to take you guys by the construction site of Citadel's new office tower in Brickell, right off of Brickell Avenue. This is Capital One. I think UBS is in here too. One of our viewers, our good friend Noah, works at one of the top UBS wealth management teams right here, 299 Park. Good guys over there. I've had some meetings there with them. Good group of people. See, that's the convenient thing about being in the city, right? You just, let's meet for a quick second. You know, just walk over to the office. It's a few blocks away. You don't need to take a car. You know, you don't really need to schedule it. If you're free, just pop over. Very convenient. Oh man, hang with Mark Moms is bring an umbrella because it's gonna rain a lot every day you're there. That sucks. That really sucks.
É,
50th and Park. Mr. T-Dog says, I'm excited to see where you work. I work right next to 432 Park. My office, my cube, looks literally directly into, I think the, I was about to say living room. The dining room, I believe, of the restaurant, 432. I'm a few blocks up by Jeffries Investment Bank. This is the Seagram building. This is one of my favorite buildings. Oops, hold on one second. Seagram building is my favorite office building in Manhattan. This is 425 Park. This is where Citadel is. Looks like they're ripping up Park Avenue. I'm gonna repave it. Maya says, did I get my real estate license before, during, or after college? Well, after. I originally was in tech sales. I did that for about a decade, where my most, I should say, previous position, I was working for an MSP, a managed service provider. It was a very small company. When I came on board, I was a director of enterprise sales. So I ran the Northeast for the company, right around Pittsburgh, all the way up through Maine. And the company really exploded. We became the fastest growing managed service provider in America. The company is Hyperion Partners. I'm no longer there anymore, but it was a really, really good ride. I'd recommend that type of line of work. Technology sales, SaaS sales, selling software. It's very high margin, reoccurring revenue, growing business. I actually would not recommend the real estate business. If you're just selling real estate, it's actually not a good business to be in. It's a declining industry and it's not like reoccurring revenue, right? So if you sell a deal, you get paid once and then you got to hunt for the next deal. But when I was selling software, right, my deal, I was on a revenue sharing basis. So I would get a percentage of profitability. I would get 25% of the profits of my territory, and I was selling reoccurring revenue contracts. So it was rather lucrative. But this is 432 Park, but I really love the business. I love the team I'm on, and I hope to build some buildings. And when we do, I'll show you guys right along live on the stream. All right, guys, I'm gonna sign off here. We'll see you all tomorrow. We'll be live at 8:45. Remember, I just sent out the newsletter. So go ahead and check it out. If you want to subscribe to receive all of our equity research every other Thursday, just scan the QR code, punch in your email, that'll take you to our Substack. But I must go. I have to work for a few more hours. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much. The LT Prod, all of our moderators, Jeff, Southern Tier, New York, Ed Dunkel. Oh, and have a wonderful Friday. We made it. So enjoy the Friday. Enjoy the last day of the week. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.